The next 9 stories that I will be reading are part of an anthology series called Of Fables, Myths, and Legends for Not Quite Children. They are cautionary tales, the kind that you probably, maybe, grew up with. This first one is called And the Winner Is. I will let it speak for itself. And as usual, let me tell you a story. Once upon a summer day, the earthworm, the lizard, the spider, the axolotl, the firefly, and the frog went to visit the fly. The reason of the reunion was the aquatic Olympics, which they were going to watch on TV. The fly's home was almost exactly halfway between the houses of the axolotl and the lizard, who were the ones who lived the farthest, and that's why they decided to rendezvous there. Also, the fact that the fly had the biggest screen of 250 millimeters aided in the making of that decision. His home was quaint, almost cozy in its own particular style. In the living room hanged a rather good copy of a painting by acclaimed artist Moscon. There was a couch that, despite being made of tin cans and styrofoam, was utterly comfortable. There was trash everywhere, yes, and a room where his sister had left a few dozen larvae, but it was nowhere near unbearable. The only thing that really didn't quite sit right with the fly's guests was the hubbub that came from the enormous convention center that lay on the other side of the highway. They thought that the noise would interfere with their enjoyment of the Olympics. Luckily, they soon found out that it really didn't matter. The earthworm, the lizard, the spider, the axolotl, the firefly, and the frog forgot any type of external distractions as soon as they tuned into the sports channel, and even more so when the host offered them food and beverages. Alcoholic beverages. There were heaps of events. The swordfish competed in underwater fencing, and the whales tested who could eat the most plankton in as little time as possible. The dolphins were the best at synchronized swimming and diving, and the turtles used to easily win at carapace throwing. The event that measured which octopus produced the most ink didn't tickle their fancy that much, mainly because you could see nothing but a black stain throughout the whole competition. After a couple of hours, the effect of the beverages became quite noticeable. Slurring his words, the axolotl was the first to speak. "I could compete there," he said, pointing at the television. "You are dreaming," said the lizard, "and drunk. You have nothing to show for at the Olympics. Of course, I myself do have what it takes to compete." "Yeah?" The axolotl got up excruciatingly from the couch. "At what event? What do you have that give you advantage in any competition?" "I can climb walls," answered the lizard, forgetting that most tests were underwater, far removed from any solid surface. "I have setae." "Setae? Where?" asked the frog. "I'm so hungry. Some pasta could be delightful right about now." The drinks had made him forget that he was a carnivore. "Not city, setae. Here, on my hands. They stick to the wall, see?" "That's nothing. Who can't climb a wall?" The axolotl rocked to one side, then to the other. It was a total sight watching him trying to not lose his balance. It's child's play, that climbing walls thing. "Yeah? Well, it's more than you can do." The lizard got up too. "What's your ability?" "None." "And you're ugly. That's your only gift." "But you have no ability either," said the firefly, pretty intoxicated as well. "What good is climbing when the rage is being able to fly like me? Now that is remarkable." Albeit not precisely for the aquatic games, but nobody cared much about that anymore. "Oh, please," said the spider, "flying is so overrated." They all entered a discussion about who would have the best chance to compete and win at the aquatic Olympics. Everyone except the fly, who, as a good host, had served yet not partaken of the food and beverages. After a while, the guests decided that they had already talked too much and that the best thing would be to prove the value of their abilities via demonstration. "I don't think that's a good idea," said the fly. "Why don't we just relax and stay here, watching the rest of the events?" "You only say that because you have no distinguishable ability," babbled the earthworm, who generally was unpleasant and odious, but even more so when drunk. And so they all got out and straight to the highway, right by a traffic sign indicating that the next exit was for the convention center, where various scientific specialty symposiums were being held at the moment. The axolotl was again the first to speak. "Give me some room, I will show you the good stuff." He waited for everyone to step back a couple of steps, and in a swift movement, he cut off his foot. "What are you doing?" shouted the fly. "Shh," was the only thing the axolotl said. He stood immobile. After a couple of minutes, his leg began to grow again. "Ain't that amazing? I can make parts of my body grow again. I rule. No one can beat me. No one." He couldn't keep on boasting his marvelous self because he was picked up by a scientist who was walking by. "An axolotl," the man exclaimed as he stuffed it in a jar that had once transported marmalade. "It will be a good specimen for my research on cellular and limb regeneration." The earthworm, the lizard, the spider, the firefly, the frog, and the fly saw in silence how the scientist took away the axolotl. The solemn moment didn't last long. "Bah! My tail also grows back," said the lizard. "And see what I can do besides that." He ran as fast as his etheric state permitted to the traffic sign and climbed it. From atop, panting, he said, "Do you see? Better. I definitely win at..." He couldn't finish gloating because a scientist who was walking by saw it over the sign and rushed to capture it. "A lizard!" she exclaimed. "It'll help me on my research on reusable glues." The earthworm, the spider, the firefly, the frog, and the fly saw how another member of the group was taken from them forever. "Truth be told, it's great that they were taken. They were odious," said the earthworm after a moment, incapable, perhaps due to the alcohol, but probably not, of noticing the less than perfect characteristics of his own personality. "Stay here, I'll show you that regeneration stuff is nothing of note." He slowly crawled away from the others. When he was at an adequate distance, he split himself in half. "What about that? What about that, eh?" said both of his parts at the same time. Each is a complete being now. That's how great we are. The best when it comes to..." He couldn't continue proclaiming his virtues because a passing scientist picked it up as he exclaimed, "An earthworm! It'll help me as a visual aid in my lecture about organic bait and its environmental impact." The spider, the firefly, the frog, and fly waited quietly until the man who took the earthworm got lost in the horizon. "I'm hungry," said the frog. "There's food back home," said the fly. "In fact, it's a good time to go back." "I think there's something there," said the frog, paying the fly no attention. "A juicy grasshopper!" He jumped once toward the traffic sign. The fly tried to stop him from drifting further away. "I don't think you should. Look how I'll catch it with my tongue." The frog hopped once more towards its prey. "Is there no such competition at the Aquatic Olympics?" One more jump. "I'd surely win. Mine is the fastest..." He couldn't show his extraordinary ability because a scientist who was walking by accidentally stepped on it. "Oh, Froggy!" she exclaimed. She picked it up. "I'm sorry." She gently caressed its corpse. "Well, your death shan't be in vain. I'll pluck out your tongue. It'll aid me on my research on biodegradable elastic bands." The spider and the firefly felt slightly afraid. They hadn't seen any of the others actually die, and witnessing such an explicit thing did shake them. The fly was frightful ever since they had left his house. The three of them looked at each other for a moment. "I guess we're off the hook," said the spider. "I mean, what's the probability that another human walks through here, right? Right?" There was no answer. "This is a good chance to show you my ability." The fly considered telling him not to do so, but decided against it. After all, the spider always played practical jokes on him. One time he was even about to get eaten, and at another one he almost died of hunger when he got stuck on a web for a couple of days. The spider, of course, was going to show them just that. He webbed a design that, truth be told, wasn't particularly well done between the bars that held the traffic sign. "What do you think? It's not only pretty, it's very resistant. I secreted myself and..." He couldn't finish bragging because, despite the low chance of it happening, a scientist saw it as he was walking by and promptly captured it. He exclaimed, "A spider, nice!" You can never have enough of them when you are studying the possibility of creating durable silk garments with its incredible web. The firefly and the fly remained by themselves. They looked at each other for 1 second, then back at the traffic sign. I guess I have the best ability then, said suddenly the firefly. Which one? Flight? Asked the fly, not without certain sarcasm. You should notice that I can do it as well, he thought. It's not that special, he said. No, dummy. This. I don't get it, said the fly after a while. Can't you see? It's probably because of the daylight. Let me focus. Put all my strength, all my determination in. He couldn't finish explaining what he was doing. A scientist who was going by caught it with a net. A firefly that shines brighter than any other I have seen, she exclaimed. I knew that I didn't bring my insect capturing gear for nothing. This specimen will help me so much on my research on alternative flashlights and lanterns. After a moment of silence, taking everything that had transpired in, the fly returned home alone. He sighed. He turned on the television. The crabs were getting ready for the crustacean relays event. And the moral of the story is, of course, that remaining sober in an absurd situation may well become a matter of life or death. Stay tuned for the rest of the stories in this Fables, Legends, and Myths anthology. And I'll see you when I see you.